Welcome to Dogs and Gooses, where, as my associate Starks always says, where the dogs are dirty and the goose is silly.
Indeed.
Welcome in. Today's a pretty special day of the episode. Any holiday that we're around tends to make for a special episode. I know what you're thinking. Yes, President's Day is right around the corner.
I'm so excited for a President's Day episode.
I know. Unfortunately, that's not for a little while yet, and so
What?
we're going to have to settle for Valentine's Day.
Well, fair enough.
Here on my lap, you can't see it because this isn't a video podcast. I have a Valentine's Day bear. I feel like it really spruces up the studio.
What did we decide to name him? What should we decide to name him?
Yeah, I don't think we named him anything. Trying to think of it.
We'll
Can't
come
name
back
him
to-
Smokey.
Can't name him Smokey.
He is a brown bear.
Smokey's taken.
Yeah, Smokey's taken.
Fiery?
Fiery passion bear.
Fiery passion bear.
He's holding a big old heart. He's got the year on his foot, 2025. I don't know if we can do anything with that, but
I don't know. We'll have to think on that, and if you come up with an idea, bring it up later in the episode.
it sounds good. But today, Starks, I have received several questions from people on questions to ask on a first date.
Oh.
And I thought we kind of rate them on a scale of 1 to 10
Okay.
for good questions. You know, how good of a question is for a first date.
We
Some
really should have
questions
brought
might be
Maddie
better
in on
for
this
later.
one.
Well, she didn't want to join.
My goodness. What a wonderful woman.
She's great. We love Maddie.
We do. I love her more than you, but
Yeah, yes.
we both love her.
Yes. Great woman.
Everybody loves her. Everybody knows it.
But from various sources, I've received... Now, we got about a little less than 40 questions.
Oh.
And I say a little less than 40 because I do have 40, but I might decide to trash a few as we go.
Okay.
I read over some of them. Some of them I haven't. Some of them are really funny. And some of them I think are just really good. And I also thought, but you know, this is open to your thoughts, we could try answering them for each other.
Oh. We have been friends for a long time.
We have. Or we could just we could answer them for ourselves. I'll leave that up to you.
I think we can try answering it for each other. I think that's always a little bit fun. We could also rate the questions on 1 to 10. I see you've got a notepad there. Is that for that purpose?
I kind of want to write it down and see which ones get the highest scores.
All right.
And then maybe at the end we can present the top ones to
And
our
then
listeners
those of
again.
you who are still dating, Williams,
and others who listen to this podcast.
others who listen to the podcast, but they're not here right now,
That's true.
which is their own fault. They could have
Yeah,
been
it
a part. We could have been dirty dogs, silly gooses, and chunky whales.
Yeah. We could have been a lot of things.
Yeah.
We could have been a lot of things. But we're dogs and gooses.
It's true. And we have no regrets.
Never any regrets.
Exactly. All right, Williams.
All right,
Lead
you
me,
ready
guide
to jump in?
Yep.
Okay. First question. Who is your hero? Besides Jesus, because that's too easy.
Fair enough. I'm trying to answer it for you first.
Well, let's rate it first.
Let's rate it first.
Who's your hero?
For a first date, I actually don't think this is a very good one. What's our
Right.
scale out of 1 to 5, 1 to 10?
1 to 10, I say. If you
I
think
give
1 to
this-
5 is better, we can do
I
that.
give this
but-
one a 3 for a first date.
Okay.
I feel like there's a pretty high chance that your date gets put on the spot and they're kind of like, I don't know, like they're like, I don't really know of any person that I really.
Might be a little cliche, too, just a touch.
It's not a terrible question, so I guess 3 might be a little bit unforgiving, but I'm also realizing that our early ratings kind of set the standards,
Mhm.
you know? So, we'll see. We'll see. I think I give this one a 3 for a first. Now, for a second or a third date, when you're a little more comfortable and it's easier to recover, I think it's a great question. Probably a 7 or an 8.
Oh, really?
You get to learn about the person, about who their heroes are, and the people that they idolize tend to be like important.
But you feel as though you need more of a foundation.
In my opinion, first dates are to get the person to talk about themselves, and you want to give them very easy, comfortable questions and make them feel comfortable, make them feel like you care about their life. And your hero is partially that, but I feel like it doesn't fully fit the bill quite as good as, like, for example, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or, like, what are you going to school for? Are you going to school? Why are you going to school? Why aren't you going to school? Like, or maybe not why aren't you going to school? That might not be a good one, but you might be like, why are you pursuing the current career you're pursuing? Anyway, we'll probably go through some of those questions later, but I just think it's a relatively low question compared to others.
Okay, that's fair. I would have given it a 5.
You give it a 5?
I give it a 5.
So do we meet in the middle and rate it 4, or do we just mark both of ours?
I say we'll make it 4.
Okay.
Let's keep it together. Okay. Now, for you, can I answer this question for you?
Yeah.
I'd probably say your dad, Rob.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Or a great answer. Not question. Yeah, is he?
You only rated it a 3, and you're saying, like...
Yeah. I think that's true. I also think your dad is yours,
Mm-hmm.
is if I'm being completely honest. And if you go outside of, like, your parents, I think it's going to be some philosopher. My initial thought was, like, Socrates. And then I was thinking of that guy who... I don't know his name.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy who puts forth that philosophy that you like, basically saying, like, come what may and love it. Like, take life as it is and enjoy life.
Oh, the
Stoicism.
Like Marcus Aurelius, something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's pretty accurate.
Would that be who you would say? I mean, obviously your father, I know you have a ton of respect for Brian. Shout out to Brian, my homeboy.
My dad.
Yeah, his dad, my homeboy.
Yeah, he's flying to a conference here later today or tomorrow morning. He's driving up to Sioux Falls right now.
Oh, really?
And I mean, by the time this podcast airs on Monday, he'll probably be there at his destination.
Well,
not Sioux Falls anymore, but
you enjoy your conference, Brian.
Yeah, have fun, Dad.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think who for you would be outside the family who you'd really, really go for. Like, I know some of the musicians that you like, but I don't know if you would consider those role models necessarily.
No, I'm pretty picky about role models, if I'll be honest.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
My dad is a huge one because he just really embodies it. I mean, I think in a lot of ways he embodies stoicism.
Yeah.
In many ways, he kind of just takes life as it is, and he just deals with it, and he does well with that. Do you want some help, or do you want to try and shoot some out there?
Give me some help.
I'll give you a hint. The first person that comes to mind actually grew up near my home of Preston, Idaho.
Oh, I'm trying to remember what leader it was.
I think you know who it is, just based off that.
Benson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ezra Taft Benson. I read his biography. I love his biography. His life was stellar, and he, I think, instituted a lot of good changes all around him throughout his entire life.
I dig it.
Yeah.
I dig it.
So what's our next question?
Next question is, what is your earliest childhood memory?
Ooh.
I feel like that's pretty deep for a...
So, I'm not going to go too far into detail on this one because it's kind of weird.
Uh-huh.
But I think my earliest was actually of my mom changing my diaper.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
The earliest that mine goes back is I remember... I know it was 2001 because we had the Frisbee, and I remember it being ridden on it was 2001. I remember Trevor being, like, around.
Yeah.
My brother. Shout out to Trevor.
Shout out to Trevor. My homeboy also.
Yeah. But it was like making the Frisbee. You know how they used to have those little spin things?
You put it on there and
you put the Frisbee on, you throw the paint on.
Those were cool.
Mm-hmm.
Those were really cool.
But I believe that is my earliest memory.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, mine...
Just watching it spin around and it getting painted.
I'm trying to think of my next... So, that would be... My two earliest memories were not, like, super bright or happy, if you will. Like, the changing diaper one was because... like, I was in pain for some reason. I can't remember. But I remember, like, my mom saying something to me. It's a very, very vague memory, but I distinctly remember it. And then, so my next one would be, I guess we answered the question first. We just went right into it. So
Yeah,
that's my bad. But
it was going to be hard to answer that one for each other.
Yeah, that's true. Well, my other one is falling out of the window in Nibley.
Oh, I remember you telling that story.
My family disputes that I remember it, but I know that I do. Because I remember my mom being on the phone and seeming calm. So for those of you who weren't there, which is most of you, I was pushing on a screen, and I was like 2 or 3. And I pushed on it once too hard. I fell out the window, and I landed on what my parents called a pumpkin squash, because it was... it looked like a crossbreed between a pumpkin and a squash or something like that. And
some sort of gourd.
Yeah. And so I was laying on my back crying, and I remember my mom coming down the stairs, and she was on the phone, and it seemed to me as though she was calm. And so as a child, I remember being like, oh, mom's calm, so this is okay. Like, it hurts, but it's going to be okay. And that was kind of one of my impressions. But according to my mom, she wasn't on the phone and she wasn't calm. She was freaking out. And I'm sure she was freaking out internally, but she seemed calm to me. She said she had got off the phone right before that, which seems to me like a pretty interesting coincidence.
Yeah. Convenient, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. As far as first date questions go, I think you should go first on this one. I started the last round.
I would maybe say 3. This isn't necessarily something I'd want to that I would be asking someone on a first date, because it doesn't seem to pertain necessarily at all to who they are.
Yeah.
It's intriguing, it's kind of fun, but...
I give this one, once again, I give this one a 5, I think. I think I'm going to go reverse. Well, because... So, my opinion is, on first dates, you want to make the questions easy answers, something that they don't have to spend a ton of time thinking about this one. So this one I feel like is pretty straightforward. Like, you should be able to remember your earliest memory. There's not really any chance for you to be like, I don't know if I have a hero of this type or that type or whatever. A lot of times, first date questions are good if they don't have to think about them for a long time. Mm-hmm. You want them to be thought-provoking, but not long format. Because then, there's kind of under pressure, and nobody wants to come back and be like, I don't really have an answer for that. So you want to just make the other person comfortable. And I think this one is a middle, like, it's kind of a middle range. I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's great.
We'll combine ours and we'll shoot for 4 again.
Yep.
A lot of 4s so far. A lot of 4s.
Yeah.
Okay. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh.
Let's rate it first.
You want me to lead?
Yeah, go ahead. What's your initial rating?
I'm giving this one a 2 for a first date.
Okay.
I think this is a little bit of serious conversation for a first date. Now, once again, for a second, third, this is probably like 3rd or 4th date in my opinion. If you really, because in my mind, this is a catalyst for a deep, in-depth conversation about their personal goals, like for their life. And so you can certainly ask this. Okay, I'm actually kind of opinionated about this. When I was coming home from my mission, people would be like, what are you going to do when you get home? And you get asked that so many times that you develop answers that are, like, they're true, but they're kind of like face...
I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, so they're kind of like face level. They don't really... There's no substance to them. And so if someone actually asks you again, like, clarifying questions, they'll discover that you're not really sure about this or not really sure about that, but you have to have something to say, right?
Mm-hmm. That reminds me of Scouts. Yeah. Because I was never a big Scouter or a great, I didn't do a ton of the merit badges. I did some. But then in order to advance, they'd be like, okay, what's your goal? Like, what's your plan?
Yeah.
So I kind of had these answers. I was like, yeah, let's shoot for it, but they were hollow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, exactly. So
you're thinking this is going to elicit those kind of responses?
I think this will elicit those kind of responses unless you know them on a deeper level. Because if my close friends ask me what my plans are...
It's going to be different.
Then I'm going to give a different answer. And so you want to give time for that relationship to develop. So I think this is a terrible question to ask on a first date because the relationship isn't ready for it yet. And you kind of make it awkward when you ask it a second time later.
I think that's fair. Because I was going to rate that higher, but I guess I kind of see your point because they're not going to give you a real answer
Yeah.
to that on probably the first one.
Yeah. We should have let you rate before I explained, actually, though.
But I mean, that informs my decision a little bit, I think.
Which is true, but I think we both...
I think I'd still rate it higher maybe than you... Would you rate it?
2.
2? I would give it... 4.
4?
So we'll round it to 3.
So we'll round it to 3?
Yeah. Should we answer for each other? I imagine you want your business to grow in the next 5 years?
Yeah. Also, do you want to turn down your computer? I think it's giving us some feedback.
Oh, is it?
Or is that your fan?
I think it's the fan on my computer.
Oh, that's
I can try putting it down.
I wouldn't stress too much.
Okay.
It's okay. We'll manage. Also, that microphone seems really good, so...
Oh, thank you.
So, what were you going to say? Why do you give it a 4, Williams?
Well, because you're right, it's not... But it's also not a horrific question to ask.
Yeah.
It's one that I think is sort of common. I've gotten variations of that question asked to me. I think I've asked variations of the question. Although variations might be better than the question per se.
Yeah. And I think... Here's my thing. I don't think there's really a science to dating. Sometimes you ask someone that, and you might be like, oh, I want to be a philosophy professor.
Yeah, and they're passionate, and they actually give you a real answer.
Well, and maybe the person you're on a date with will then be like, oh, a philosophy? I love philosophy, right? And, like, just go into this thing. Now, it's less common among certain sexes to love philosophy. Certain ones tend to like it more than others, but...
You're telling me.
Yeah. But the point is to say... It's not like if you ask these questions, even if I rate them low,
they could really work out.
They couldn't work out, or that they're terrible questions in general. It's just some of them I feel like are more appropriate for later dates where you're going to get more information. It's going to progress your
you're going to get more accurate answers.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think that's fair. So those of you who contributed, you know who you are. Don't take this as though we're ripping your questions apart.
Well. I think they're not bad questions, like I said.
Yeah,
so,
no, I think they're.
I've asked many of these questions, like many times throughout dating. It's just, I don't think
that we're sitting here,
Yeah. Well, my point so far has been not that they're bad questions, but that they'd be better later.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
It's a bit more about when you ask, maybe than.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, I think you would grow your business a little bit more. Do you think we should keep answering these, or?
I think we can give a brief one. Like this, for example, I feel like we kind of went over this, and I think we've got a lot of questions to go through, so I think I'd grow my business. You'd be a professor in philosophy.
Well, 5 years, that'd be really impressive.
Well, I have no idea, but I know that's the eventual goal. Maybe have your master's degree?
Yeah, maybe. I think that's good. What is the accomplishment you are most proud of? You're thinking of the same lines as the last question? Well, no, I feel like people are going to be...
I think this one is... Yeah. I give this one a... I give it a 6. And I'm tempted to rate it lower, but I give it a 6 if you're able to recover well. Because some people you're going to give this to, and they might be like, ooh, I can't... Well, I'm changing my mind. I'm moving it to a 5. Just because this is one of those ones that you might have to think about for a while. So when I say 5, I don't mean like it's bad. I mean like it's about mid-level. It's okay. It's not great. It's okay. Yeah. So I give it a 5, just because like it is something, and it's good to know what people value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 7 because I do think people are more vocal about their accomplishments.
Yeah.
Typically.
Yeah.
Not everyone.
Well,
I don't like to necessarily flaunt things, but...
Well, there are a lot of people who aren't. For example, Maddie, she's very not vocal about her accomplishments. And this is actually a great question to learn about things that she's accomplished, because she's not going to brag about it for herself.
Correct.
Right? So that's what I like about this question. And I like the roots of this question. It's more, I think it depends a lot on your ability to recover if your date responds with something like, I'm not really sure. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If for example your date says, I'm not really sure if, like what my biggest accomplishment is. That's kind of a hard question. Then you say, oh yeah, you got a lot to pick from, don't you? Well, I'll tell you what mine is, and then we can.
And you
I'd go
can
from
kind of
there.
hash it out
Yeah,
that way.
exactly. So if you recover well, then I give that one a higher score. But because
Yeah.
of the risk factor, and it's not that the risk factor is a huge deal. Like usually, if you learn to recover, it's okay. It's just more. I think first dates are really about making people feel comfortable and getting to know them, obviously, but making them feel comfortable enough to be themselves.
Fair enough. I mean, so we're going to combine it. We're going to call it 6.
Sounds great.
For you, I think your greatest accomplishment so far has been your marriage to your lovely wife.
That's true. And for you, it's either graduating college or your mission. I think I would lean towards mission, but it might be college.
I think you're pretty close. I don't know if I would say I have that many great accomplishments. It's not that I haven't accomplished things, but I don't know if I'd call them great.
It depends on if you're doing it comparatively or if you're just looking at your life. Like a 2-year mission and getting a degree are, like, they're pretty good accomplishments. But if you're like, look at the percentage of people within our culture that do that, then it's not like a significant amount. But I think in and of themselves, they are good accomplishments, great accomplishments even.
Fair enough.
Also, you are a very adept guitar player, so you probably wouldn't answer that one, but I think I would answer that as a great accomplishment. It takes a lot of dedication. You write good songs. You do a lot of different things like that.
I appreciate it. I do think the music's rather basic.
Yeah.
I don't know, but, you know.
It's definitely complex enough that people like me can't understand it.
But I don't know about that, Starks, but... so the next question. What little things make you happy?
What little things make you happy? Why don't you rate this one first? I think I rated the last few first, which I didn't mean to do. I meant to be switching it.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter either way. I don't think this is a bad question at all because it's not super deep. People are going to answer it, and they're going to kind of answer it. I like the way it's phrased because so you can ask people about their hobbies and things, and of course those make them happy, but this allows you to see like a broader range. I'm going to call this a 7, even though it's a little cliche, maybe. I'm going to call it a 7.
Okay. I don't think I entirely disagree. With this question, for me, it doesn't like super resonate, but I think it's not a bad question. And also, as you said that, I was realizing some of these questions are probably better for girls to ask guys, and some of them are probably better for guys to ask girls.
That's very fair. We're not even considering that
aspect. Yeah.
aspect.
So for me, like, for example, like there's a lot of crossover between what you should or shouldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
But like there's lots of questions that I think are a little bit easier coming from girls to guys and vice versa. So even if I am critical of a question, doesn't mean it might not be good for girls. These are just things I've learned from my own experience. And so with this one, I really like the opportunity to learn something about somebody that they don't really realize that they're telling you. In the sense that I feel like this, if it's answered well, is actually pretty telling of what a person values. So I really like that. Yeah, I think I'm going to give this one a 7 as well, actually, now that I think about it. Because I think if somebody asked me this...
First one we agreed on the rating.
Yeah. I think if someone asked me this, I think it would give me an opportunity to talk about, I really like sports, and if you want to go into like little things, you can be like, I really enjoy it when I pass it to a teammate and he makes a bucket.
Yeah.
And that's like a little thing. Or some people are going to be like, I like waking up early and watching the sunrise. And different stuff like that.
Yeah. Me answering it for you, I think, like, those things, yes, but I also think just spending time with people you love and enjoy.
Yes.
Is one of the big little things for you.
Yeah. No, 100%. 100%. And I think that's probably the best answer, even better than the ones that I gave about myself. But I wasn't really necessarily looking for the prime answer as much as I was just looking for exams of what that could tell you about
Correct.
a person.
No, yeah, and then when you say little things, it's going to plural. They're going to give you a few different.
Absolutely. Let's see. For you, Williams, honestly, my first thought is probably the same thing. Probably spending time with people, particularly your family or close friends, or your Starks family.
Yep.
I think as a secondary to that, so I'm not just copycatting, I think you really enjoy the opportunity to ponder new ideas. So discovering new information in a book or even through your own pondering, I think would be one of the little things in life that you really enjoy.
That's definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
I do really enjoy that.
Is there anything else that you think that I missed that you probably would be all for?
You mean other little things that bring me joy?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, I just mean, am I spot on, or are we moving
I think
on?
you're pretty spot on.
Okay.
I like it when I get a new idea and just kind of clicks into something.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I love that too.
Who was your first celebrity crush?
Your first celebrity, see. Do you want to lead on this one, or do you want me to?
It's not my favorite.
Yeah,
I might say two. I'm hesitant to say one. But
listen, amongst, and this is the thing, all of our ratings are super subjective. So I feel bad because some people have sent these questions, but for me, I've never been into, like, I don't really care about celebrities all that much.
No,
like, really at all. And so if somebody asked me this,
I don't even know what I would say for you.
Yeah. I mean, I have a generic answer that I've always given when asked about my celebrity crush, but it's just because it was someone whose name that I knew.
I have a guess for you.
All
and
right.
It's only whoever actress plays Jules in Psych. Just because that seems to be the only show you care about.
And that's probably a good guess, but I don't actually know her name. So
I don't know the actress's name.
So whenever people
either.
said this, I would be like, either whoever plays Hermione or what's it? There's that other blonde actress that I know her name. I don't remember. So I just picked like two people who were super famous, so everyone knew their name.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would just be like, I don't really have one, but if I had to give one, I would just give this person. And so,
yeah, what are you rating it?
I think I'm going to give this one. I'm going to go with you and give it a 2. I almost give this one a 1 just because it's so far outside my
comfort zone.
Actually, I think I'm moving it to a 1. I'm sorry,
okay.
Whoever sent this. Like, we appreciate the question.
That's fair.
Well,
I'll move mine too, and I will call it a 1.
Well, my thing, like I said, this is a question that just makes me uncomfortable because I don't really have a celebrity crush.
And like, what are they trying to elicit from you almost? If they ask you a question?
Well, not only that, but also
it's awkward if you ask a girl a little bit
on a date too. Some girls are going to be
even
relaxed
the first
about
date.
It. Even the first date, what your celebrity crush that, like, if you pick a girl with different color hair or who's like,
they might feel a little devalued.
Yeah, they'll be like, oh, so he has a type and I'm not it, type of thing. And I just think that that's not a great start, not a great message.
Not a great probe either.
Yeah,
you know
that combined with the fact that I just think we spend too much time thinking about celebrities, it makes me a little bit prone to just
I hate a little bit of that. Yeah. That is fair.
Williams, if I had to guess yours, I'm gonna guess Reba in her prime, just because you love country and Reba, like, kind of a stud in her day.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Reba's a great lady.
Yeah. And you're a country man, so
yeah. I like country music.
Yeah, I don't know if you're quite into the redhead of it, but
not necessarily. I mean,
I don't think you're against it. I just think
yeah.
I guess I don't even know what hair color you like. Probably all of them.
Yeah, I think they're all fine.
I think you're probably, yeah. Anyway.
But, yeah. So the next question. What is something about yourself that most people wouldn't guess? I think I answered first the last one.
Actually, I like this one a lot. At the end of the first date.
Okay.
At the end of the first date. And actually, I said something similar to this, and maybe it's a totally different question, but it was one of my favorite questions. Either first date, second or third date, it always works good. At the end of the date, you go, what is something about you that I should know in, like, a good way? So maybe this isn't exactly what you frame it, but that you haven't told me. So you're like, what's something about you that's cool that I should know that we haven't talked about yet? And that, to me, sounds like this question. Will you read it one more time? I can't remember it.
Yeah. What is something about yourself that most people wouldn't guess?
Yeah, so end of the first date, I say this one's a pretty good question. I'm going to give it an 8.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is an 8. Like you said, it's a good question. It kind of gives you a fun peek into a person that you wouldn't normally get.
Yeah. Let's see here. This is kind of tough because I know most everything about you, so what is it that I wouldn't guess? You know, crocheting. You're pretty open and honest about that one, but that's not something like if I met you on the street that I would guess that you crochet.
Yeah, I kind of have a different vibe, I think, than you would guess a crocheter would have.
Yeah, you don't look quite grandmotherly enough.
Yeah, thank goodness.
I do love it that you and Ben
Not
went
to
to that
discriminate against
crocheting
grandmas.
class that one time.
I know, yeah, at the library.
Yeah.
And we never ended up doing it again because it was kind of strange and
Yeah.
it wasn't really helpful for me.
Yeah.
I'm fairly adept crocheter, I think, but
Yeah. Yeah.
for you, I think kind of a fun one is just your hatred of onions.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. I do. I know you guys wouldn't guess it, but I hate onions.
Yeah, like he sounds like a guy, and I think he's fine with potatoes, but you're not like a huge
Potato?
Yeah.
I like potatoes. I like fries. I like mashed potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't... to be honest, a lot of times... So I'm from Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
You guys all know that. A lot of times I tell people I'm from Idaho, and they're like, so you like potatoes, huh? And I'm like, honestly, I feel like I probably like potatoes less than most people, but like a hair. I still like mashed potatoes. I still like fries. But I've never really been a huge fan of like funeral potatoes or baked potatoes.
I didn't know about the funeral potatoes part.
Yeah,
so those are a great potato.
Yeah,
the
and then
cheese and everything.
Then if you go into onions, actually, I've developed a taste for onions in some things. If they're cut really small, I like them on burgers. I do like onion rings, but onions in their pure form, I don't have patience for.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of a fun thing.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. What topic are you most likely to nerd out about? I actually think this is a really good one to ask your girl.
This is a very good one.
Because I feel like they would like this kind of question.
I think this is a great question. I don't know if I ever asked a girl anything like this, but
No,
I think this is a fantastic question. Because something that's really fun on dates is to talk with somebody about something that they're passionate about.
Mm-hmm. And when you phrase it in that kind of a fun way,
yeah,
I think people will be really receptive to it. And they'll be like, actually, like, let me... Because it's something that they care about. Even if they're... And they're not as afraid because you've termed it as nerd out. So they're like, oh, I can appear to be a little nerdy, per se.
I think I'm going to give this one a 9.
Yeah, I'm torn between a 9 or a 10.
I really thought about the 10, but I was like, it's so early.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's got to be other questions. This one's a 9 for sure, at least.
Great question.
Yeah. You nerd out about philosophy. I think that's probably your biggest nerd out. Like, you nerd out about a couple things, but probably largely philosophy.
Yours would probably be football.
I do nerd out about football quite a bit. I have a few things. I mean,
I think you like business a lot. I could see
business,
you talking about that.
Yeah, I think football is...
I feel like football is your go-to, maybe because it's popular.
Well, football is the easiest one to start a conversation with. Like, for most people, I'm not going to talk about different books and their plot lines and how I feel like they could have been done better or worse.
You have like Brandon Sanderson stuff a lot. You do like a lot of the fiction.
I'm a huge reader, and I love reading, and I love talking with people about reading. But that's usually like you have a very developed relationship before you talk about that.
Like you call Craig a lot about that kind of... Because you all read similar books.
Yeah, we read similar or the same books, and we talk a lot about plots and parts where the story could have been better, parts where it was phenomenal, like things we love, things we hated. And I love to nerd out about that a little bit, because I've read... I don't know, thousands of books maybe since high school. I've just been reading a ton. So that's something I really like to nerd out about, but it's not something I talk about with most people. Football is something I definitely nerd out about, and I talk about with plenty of people. Business. Even like interpersonal relations. I don't know if that's the right words.
I mean, these conversations are fun on like dating and the dynamics.
Yeah.
You like strategy.
I like strategy, and I particularly like social strategy in a weird way. I feel like in junior high, my sociability or how social I was actually underdeveloped by a fair margin. And I think there came a point where I said, okay, like I'm doing something wrong socially. What do I do to fix that? And I think that I kind of discovered that there were certain things that I wasn't doing that needed to be doing, and certain things I was doing that I needed to not be doing. Mm-hmm. And so it made me very conscious of kind of social strategy and interaction. So that's something I nerd out about too. But it's kind of a hard thing to pick out of those ones.
Right.
But I
And
think
it is
football's a
exciting
great
to
answer.
talk about, even as
It is. I really enjoy talking about that.
Yeah, so great question. What does a perfect summer day, start to finish, look like for you?
You go first.
I'm going to say closer to 5. Because I think it's fairly generic, and I feel like there's a lot of fluff that you...
Yeah.
Which fluff is okay.
I think I'm going to be a little harsher.
Oh.
I'm going to give this one a 3. Because it's not like the end of the world question, but it once again, it has 2 parts to it. One is, like you say, it's really generic. Super generic question. And 2, it's going to elicit the same type of, like, fluff, fake response that we talked about earlier with the very first question.
Okay. So we'll round and say 4?
Yeah.
Or average it?
Yeah, and 4.
I feel like most of your summer days just going to be hanging out with Maddie and friends.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on.
You probably play basketball in the morning.
Yeah, I would probably play basketball in the morning. I would come home and spend time with Maddie.
Spend the evening playing football.
Spend the evening playing sports with friends. So basketball would be kind of like with my current ball groups. A lot of them are my friends as well.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had my way, I mean, like a perfect day, I would come home. I would spend the day with Maddie probably, and then in the evening with Maddie and with all of my friends, we would get together and play pickleball with like a huge group. If you're talking like actually perfect.
I dig it.
Yeah, with my friends and family. So I kind of just include
Your family plays
there.
baseball a lot.
Yeah,
I
loved playing baseball with my family. It was so fun, and I would love to have like all my family and friends together.
Nerf war.
So we had
family.
Nerf war, pickleball, like all that stuff. I love having huge groups of people that I love to be around
and doing fun, outdoorsy.
Yeah.
Activities.
Like my wedding, if it hadn't been cliche and if Maddie would have approved it, I would have been down to just play pickleball for the reception with everybody that I knew and loved.
That would have been kind of awesome.
That would have been cool.
How's that cliche?
Did I say cliche?
Yeah.
I didn't mean cliche.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't think I've ever heard of anyone doing that.
I was looking for...
That'd be so out of the norm kind of thing?
Yeah, it's I want to say fashe, but it's not that. It's some other word that's basically... Taboo is more of the word I was looking for. Yeah. And for you, Williams, I think yours is actually kind of similar to mine, minus the sports. You would probably... See, you know what I can't decide is if Minecraft or anything would have a part in it. I know your family would be involved and your friends. I think you would also like about midday or maybe in the evening, an hour or 2 to just sit down and read a good book.
Yeah.
And I think you've got to have a fun activity in here. So like you spend time with family, you read a good book, because you kind of like your alone time a little bit. You don't need it all the time, and you like spending time with family and friends, but you also like to have some times where you're just playing Minecraft, playing your guitar, writing a song, like doing something sort of creative, but that it's just kind of you zoning in. Is that
I'd say that's accurate, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're...
Yeah. Sweet.
All right. What is your greatest fear?
Ooh. Okay, so I'm going to need some context on this one. Is it like greatest fear, or is it like scary, like spiders, zombies, vampires fear?
And see, I think that'd be part of it too. Because initially, my greatest fear is rather like serious and kind of grave.
Yeah.
And not one that it's going to be fun for a first date. Now, if it's more campy, like what
monsters are scary, or like what's the scariest thing to you?
Right, like, what's something small that scares you?
Yeah.
Is there an animal that? Although for me, I don't think I'm afraid of any animals necessarily.
Yeah.
I'm not fond of all the sea creature ones because I'm kind of out of my element
Yeah.
amongst them. Maybe.
I don't love spiders, but they're also not that bad. I wouldn't say that they're my greatest fear.
Correct, but when it gets serious,
I will say, if you've ever played that Grounded game, did you play that with me, Williams?
that's the one where the kids
Get shrunk.
Yeah.
And so you play it on, basically it's just a regular backyard, but there's all sorts of bugs and stuff. Those,
those spiders creep
huge
you out.
spiders, yeah, well, they're like...
A lot of people say that about that game, I think.
Actually,
I think
they are
people
freaky, and I'm not that afraid of spiders, but I don't love them. Mm-hmm. And those things are freaky in that game because they're huge. They're like the size of,
they're so
you get
aggressive
shrunk,
too.
So they're really aggressive, and you get shrunk, so you're actually tiny, but comparatively, it'd be like the size of 3 or 4 cars put together, compared to the size we are now. And they are so scary. They're so aggressive, and they're it's just freaky.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, tangent.
Yeah, what would you rate it?
Rating the question. I think I'm going to have to say I actually don't love this question, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like it doesn't... I don't know. If you're just out of things to say and you need a question, toss this one out there. If you're talking about... Okay, so I don't love it if it's either way, but if it's talking about a genuine deep fear, where you're talking about people's insecurities and all that stuff, I think I give it a 1 in that case. This is a terrible first date question. But if you're just talking about spiders, snakes, whatever, I give it a 4.
Okay. So are you wanting to average your own there for yours, or?
I think we should just pick one and say that's the one we're going with.
Well, mine's 2.
Okay.
So whatever one you choose.
I'm just gonna match you at 2 because
okay.
I don't think it forwards the conversation in any real way in either situation. And in 1, I think it's detrimental to the conversation.
Yeah, and it's not kind of happy or fun. It's more because when I don't even know how to respond to that if on a first date. I'd probably tell them the real answer, but the real answer's
deep and
dark
normally this would be a question I think almost for when you're dating,
yeah, you can throw it in farther down the line a little, for a better.
If I were asked that, I would probably just immediately say, I'm just going to assume you mean this in the lighter way, and I would say falling, is probably one of the most. It's not I'm sure there are other things that would be scarier, but it's the most reasonable thing to be afraid of. Falling out of a plane out of the sky type of thing is something that I am terrified of.
Yeah. All right, shall we move on to the next question?
Let's do it.
All right, so if you could have a superpower, which one would you want and why? Did you know that I was actually asked this in an interview once?
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they related to the job a little bit, how would it help in the job you're doing? I was like, that's an odd question for an interview.
Yeah.
But in the dating context of a first date.
Maybe was it a girl interviewer? Were they trying to date you? Oh.
Not at all.
They still could have been.
I think this individual was happily married.
Oh.
So.
Well.
I think it just, they're what's kind of a fun, campy question that might... I doubt it was to throw me off, but...
Probably just to add some fun into the interview is my guess.
Maybe, yeah.
So, is it my turn to go first on the rating or yours?
It isn't. It might be mine. I rate this a 5 because it's not bad. It's not threatening in any way. It's kind of fun, but it's not. It doesn't merit necessarily a higher rating.
Yeah, my initial response was to give it a 6.
Okay.
I actually think I'm changing that answer because I was reminded of how many times I've had that discussion with somebody. Mm-hmm. So, it's not that it's a bad question. I think it's an okay question.
It's a little cliche.
Yeah, but at this point, it's so asked, and I'm going to tell you, it's 3 things. Teleportation, flying, or super speed. That's it. That's pretty much
that pretty much encapsulates the answers.
Yeah. So it's people who So most people are going to say either super speed, or actually most people seem to say super speed because they're like, then I can get a lot done, I can travel really far and do all this cool stuff. And then some people will say teleportation because they're like, that's like super speed but better.
Mm-hmm.
I could be instantly somewhere. And then a couple people say flying because they think it would be cool. Because I've had this conversation tons of times.
And there are a few more nuanced answers, but
yeah. There. I mean, I think I heard one answer outside of those three just one time, and I don't even remember what it was.
Yeah, that's fair. So, yeah, what did you change your rating to?
I'm gonna give it a 3.
Okay, so we meet in the middle, say 4.
Yep.
For you, we've had this conversation. You said super speed or teleportation.
Yep.
So,
for you, Williams, I think I'm gonna guess super speed or teleportation. Probably teleportation.
No. I think I know that we've had this conversation. It's been a while though.
Is reading minds? Is that yours?
No, I feel like that'd be crazy.
That would be wild.
That'd be too much.
I don't think I'd want that power.
No.
Yeah. So what's your answer?
So it's either flying or I've always thought a really cool one would be to never have to sleep and never be tired.
Oh, I remember that actually.
You can get so much, and you don't necessarily need the super speed for it either. You can just keep going.
It's true.
So, and anymore, you can be productive at all hours because we got
there's just stuff going on
Mm-hmm.
all hours of the night. All right. I think that's a pretty good answer.
Yeah, but your guesses weren't bad either.
Well, thank you, Williams.
What's an important core memory and why? I think it's your turn to go first.
Yeah, it is. I'm just kind of picturing how this would play out. I like the attempt at depth. And I'm thinking about how it would play out. It's kind of hard to visualize. I think I like this one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little easier to think of. Did it say most important core memory or what's one?
No, it just says what's an important core memory.
I think I'm going to give this one a 7. It's a pretty good one.
I'm going to say the same.
I like it. I like that it delves deep. Mm-hmm. I think there are
and
other
it's
ways.
not threatening because it's just an important memory.
Exactly. It's not like the most. Yeah, I think I like this one. I think it's not like my peak favorite question, but I think it's good.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. The question is, should we keep answering? Because we do have a significant amount more to go.
Yeah, and we're at 45 minutes. I say we'll pick and choose when we answer.
Sounds good. If you could enhance a sense, so we both rated that one 7.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could enhance a sense, which one would you choose?
Oh yeah, you go first on this one.
It's not bad. I don't think it's anything grand.
Yeah.
Which would make me just kind of say 6.
I think I'm going to give it a 5, actually.
Okay.
There's really no advancement. I mean, if you add a Y to that, it might warrant a 6.
Okay.
Because if you're just like, which one would you advance? And they're like, oh, my eyesight, because I want to see better.
Okay. So we'll say 5.5.
Yeah. Which is what I would say. I'd be like, my eyesight.
Yeah. Probably, or just my, sense.
Yeah, because it's hearing, smelling.
I might do hearing.
It would be either hearing or eyesight. I think I would go with eyesight.
Okay. Yeah, that's not bad at all. This next question is, are you Batman?
Are you Batman? 10.
That is a pretty, especially if you're a girl asking a guy. Actually, if you do it slightly serious, not like real serious.
Well, what you got to do is you got to give build
that's
up.
That's flattering. Yeah.
So what you do is you say, listen,
Batman?
I have a question for you. It's a little personal.
Mm-hmm.
It's very deep. I really need you to answer it honestly. Then you pause. You lean in a little closer. You say, are you Batman?
It elicits a nice laugh. Kind of breaks them up a little bit if they're a
Yeah.
little too serious. Just kind of a fun one.
Also, you get to lean in close.
Yes, you do. Are we saying 10 for that one?
A 10.
A 10.
See, that's why I was hesitant to rate our earlier one a 10. We don't want to give out 10s like nothing.
Now we've got a perfect one, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, yes.
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 Yes and yes.
Yes and yes. Yes or yes. All right. Whoops.
We take shifts.
Oh, good. I mixed up these questions a little bit when I was writing them down.
Oh, goodness, Williams.
I know. 1, 2, 4. So I'm just trying to keep this straight on my paper so we know which ones
Okay.
got what kind of rating.
Worries at all. For the record, while Williams straightens that out,
Okay.
we have a Valentine candy purchased for this episode. So we're kind of living the Valentine mood here.
Yeah, it's real. It's real
So
Valentine.
If you hear any crunches, it's just us enjoying our life.
And if you hear any bags rustle, it's the M&Ms.
It's true.
Okay. This is kind of a cool one, I think. Well, I'm already in. What meal do you remember most fondly as a kid? I kind of already tipped my head a little bit.
Yeah.
I think this is a really good one.
Yeah.
Just because it's fun. Again, it's not like you're really delving too deep into them
Yeah.
all at once, but it's kind of just a cool little neat thing to know about someone.
I think it's fun.
I'd say 7 or an 8.
I also think on the off chance that you wind up dating, and I say on the off chance just because realistically most first dates are not going to end in a relationship, but on the off chance that you do, that information is good stuff to remember, to show the person that you're listening to them, and it'll make them feel special if you bring it up, particularly for guys to girls. Particularly for me, if I remember something Maddie said to bring up later, like maybe she tells me her favorite thing is pizza, and so on a special day I bring her a pizza made whatever way she mentions. And
Speaking of which, that's your answer to the question. You would say pizza is the most fun.
Well, actually, this sounds like more of a sentimental question, so I would actually probably say chicken noodle soup or biscuits and gravy. So those are some things that my mom made that I really enjoyed. But I'm going to give this one an 8. I don't think it furthers the conversation as much as some of the others, which is why it doesn't get a higher rating than that even. But I think it gives someone a chance to talk about something that they enjoy, and it has potential to be useful in the future.
Okay. So we'll say an 8.
And, Williams, I'm going to guess baked potatoes. Either that
You're
or
correct.
pretzels, because you used to have pretzels for your movie nights.
Yeah, a good bag of pretzels would go a long way. I'm not a huge popcorn fan. I don't like how they get stuck everywhere.
Yep.
But pretzels were perfect sometimes.
Yep.
Okay. What is the driving motivation for your morning?
I like the concept behind this, like the search for kind of what motivates you. I don't love the question. I feel like it's a little bit ambiguous. So I think I'm once again going to give this one a 3.
Okay. I'm going to give it a 4 because it's not a horrible question by any means.
It's just I don't like the ambiguity is my kind of main beef.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if they're going to give you a real answer because I feel like that can go into a pretty deep.
Once again, this might be something that's good on later dates when they're a little more comfortable with you.
So about 3.5 between us.
Yeah, well, that and also maybe it's good to help people think about it. But my initial reaction is going to be, I wake up in the morning because I need to work, and the reality is a lot of times when people wake up, they don't actually think about their core.
Why?
Yeah, exactly, and so they can search for it, and certainly that can be a valuable thing for them to search for it, which is why I said I like the concept, but I think it's pretty tough to delve into that on a first date.
That's fair. Yeah, so we'll call it a 3.5.
Yeah.
What are your preferred stores for groceries?
Ooh. See, this one I actually like more than I would expect Because actually I think this can tell you a surprising amount about the person, especially if they add
give
a
you a little
second
bit more.
comment. Yeah, because if they're like Walmart because it's cheap, then you found somebody who's frugal and or isn't like super crazy. I don't want to say pompous, but kind of like that. They're not super into the prestige of shopping somewhere.
Yeah.
And if you say Target, they are a little bit more into that prestige, or they like the aesthetics of it, or they like the clothes there and that sort of stuff. So the second comment added after it, I think, could be valuable. So once again, this one might be good to give a why, or you might say, what's your favorite store to shop at and why?
Yeah.
So, did I rate the last one first, or?
I don't remember. Go ahead.
Okay. I think I'm going to give this one a 7.
Okay. For me, initially at least, like I like where you're going with it, but before I was thinking about that, I was thinking more along the lines of a 5. I think if you both long distance dating is becoming more and more of a thing.
Yeah.
And so it would mean less if you were but if you're living in the same kind of area, it could be fun.
Yeah, that's true.
And it might,
And that's a
be
factor.
intriguing. So I say we meet in the middle, call it 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a bad question at all. It's
Yeah.
kind of fun. Yeah, like you're saying, you can discern quite a bit. What is your dynamic like with those close to you?
You go ahead.
I don't know. I don't think anyone would be dishonest necessarily. But I don't know if... Not everyone knows how people perceive them, really. So they they might see themselves having a different dynamic with people than they actually do. Do you understand?
Which is true. I mean, we as people, probably some of the people that we generally lie to the most is ourselves. Not necessarily intentionally or not necessarily like in-depth lies. It's just really hard to see the world through other people's lenses when the only perspective we have is our own. That being said, I also don't really like the ambiguity of the question. Right? So like if you read it again.
Yeah, what is your dynamic like with those close to you?
Yeah, so like for me I'm like, what do you mean? Like how do I spend time with them? Who do I spend time with? What do I do? I don't really know.
And sometimes it varies widely depending on who it is. So it's not... I think maybe if you specify a little bit, it becomes... But even then, it can be a little deep for a first date.
Yeah.
It's definitely a question you want to ask, or some version of it later on.
Yeah.
But I think on first date, it's not...
Yeah, I think well, so here's my thing with this one. I would give it a higher rating if there was some clarification. So if you said, what's your dynamic with people around you? And you said, so like, how do you interact with your friends, for example, that makes you feel good or that makes you enjoy spending time with them? Because then you can find out, like, I'm kind of a tease. I like to tease people just a little bit. Like, I just,
you like to poke.
I just like to poke a little bit, and I like to be gentle about it. I never like to poke in areas that are sore.
Correct, but we have fun poking each other's favorite car.
Exactly. Yeah, well, stuff like that. Or I'll be like, hey, Williams, would you like some pizza? And
knowing that I can't have any.
And he can't have any. And so, obviously, if Williams is in a bad mood, I don't say, hey, Williams, do you want some pizza? But anyway, point is, if you ask about your dynamic with people around you and then you give kind of a clarifying question, I'm a little bit more in favor of it because that's actually really, like, a very pointed thing. But if you just say, what's your dynamic with people around you? And maybe for the sake of this example, we have the short one. So I'm going to give it a little bit of leeway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say... I'm going to have it meet in the middle and give it a 5. Because I think I would give it a 7 if you give a clarifying question. I think I give it a 3 or a 4 if you don't. Honestly, I'd probably give it a 2 or a 3 if you don't. Because it's too ambiguous for me.
I think I'm okay with a 5.
Yeah.
Again, not a bad question, but one you want to ask later, I think.
Yeah.
What's your favorite animal, and is there a reason behind it? Is it my turn to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's fun.
Yeah.
I would, because people like different things. Like, it's usually the binary between cat or dog, but you could get some other responses. And it kind of gives you an idea kind of what they like. Dogs are kind of happy-go-lucky. Cats are a little bit more reclusive. And, that sort of thing. I'd give it an 8.
Yeah, I actually really like this question, and I think I'm going to give it a 9 solely because of my very first response. I've never been asked this question before, so this is my very first...
Well, that's true,
like,
yeah.
My very first experience with this. But, in my brain, I immediately thought of my favorite animal, which is a cheetah, by the way. And when I was in 3rd grade, we were giving animal reports, and I did one on a cheetah. And I remember at the time, I was one of the fastest kids in my school, which doesn't really matter now. It's like really not important. Mm-hmm. But at the time, that to me was kind of like a big thing.
Symbolic.
Yeah, and symbolic. And so I was like, I want an animal that's fast, like speedy. And so I did my report, and did you know cheetahs can run up to 70 miles per hour, by the way?
Oh.
But anyway, so I think that tells you a little bit about at least who I was as a child, and it's kind of a fun, lighter question that 100%. You can sprinkle in with the deep questions. Because if you just go all deep questions throughout the day, it's a little bit tiresome.
And I like a whole bunch of birds. Penguins are my favorite. I remember as a kid, like on all my reports and stuff, it'd be penguin, penguin, penguin. I did a lot of art projects. And my dad, it's funny because he keeps a lot of the art projects that we do, and they're sitting in his office. But he still has a couple of like the penguin things that I sculpted, or
Yeah.
It's kind of a fun thing. You're right. It's kind of gives you a little peek, and
yeah.
So we'll say an 8.5. That's a good question. You okay there, Starks?
Yep, I'm doing great.
Now this might be an intriguing question. What is your stance in the Coke, Pepsi, or Dr. Pepper debate?
Ew. I'm going to go first. I'm going to give it a 0 because they didn't include Sprite.
Well, that goes under the umbrella of Coke, doesn't it? Sprite is a Coke product.
I'm a little insulted.
That it takes kind of a...
That Sprite... why isn't Coke under the umbrella of Sprite? And don't say that's the company name, because we ignore company names all the time.
Oh, well, okay.
So, definitely giving it a 0. But assuming they said Sprite instead of those others, I think this could lead to a pretty fun, lighthearted conversation. You're not going to get like a ton of details about a person.
No.
But if there's somebody who you gel with, I'm going to give this, I want to say a 7.5, but I think I'm going to say 7 or 8, and then whatever depending on where you go.
Okay.
It'll either pull it up or pull it down.
I'd say 10 because it's kind of along the lines of the Batman question, but it's also just kind of... But it's, it's not like...
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but I like it a lot.
It's
fun.
So then we meet in the middle with 9.
Yeah, we'll see 9.
Sounds good. And for the answer is Williams Dr. Pepper, and I'm clearly a Sprite man.
Yeah. But even before Sprite, you would have said Coke anyway.
And that's true.
It kind of goes into that umbrella.
And that's... Oh, well, okay then.
Because Coke is the company.
Yes, you're right. I was just messing around.
Well, you weren't to me.
I'm sorry, Williams.
Okay, so... Sorry, I'm
you're
getting
good.
Here. Okay, here it is. What is your go-to midnight snack?
You go ahead. I led on the last one.
It's not bad, but it's not something I consider grand either. And maybe this isn't necessarily something you should be thinking about, but I think if the person's a little self-conscious about their weight or something, then that might be kind of a weird, awkward question that might go a little weird. But I kind of like the idea of what's your little snack that you like?
I'm gonna give this one a 5. Mm-hmm. It's okay. It's not bad, not great. Mm-hmm. I think you're not gonna find out a ton of information. I think what is your favorite food is probably a better question than this one.
Yeah.
Which is, I
agree with your 5.
Yeah.
Williams,
yours is ice cream.
Yeah, yours is pizza.
Well, fair enough. Would you like some?
Gee, thanks. That feels like the Charlie Brown response. Reminds me of Charlie Brown Valentines stuff. Gee, thanks.
Gee, thanks.
Oh, the world's going so great. And he really liked that redheaded girl in class or whatever.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and he was never able to really talk to her. He's like, there's that cute little redhead girl in my class. And he never got her. I don't think he ever connected with her.
Poor Charlie Brown,
Yeah. But what can you do?
What can you do?
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Give it a 6.
Okay. I would say more of a 7.
Oh, really?
Because I do think it's a good question. You kind of you see some sort of alignment in general things.
Well, I also think, I don't know. I think...
And it's not like a question that people are going to be afraid to answer.
To me, it's like kind of a middle ground question that's just slightly better because you find out a little bit more and you have the chance of someone being like, oh, like I work so much better in the mornings and like breaking into a thing. So I see it as a slight upside middle ground. Not bad question, not great.
And you said 6?
Yeah.
So we'll say 6.5. What is the best advice you've ever received? Is it my turn to go first?
Yeah.
I really like this question because I think it can lead to some fun answers. Now, it would depend a little bit on how the conversation's going already.
Yeah.
As to what kind of success it would have. But there's a piece of advice that we really like. I know that I would say it or use it as the piece of advice. That is kind of a fun conversation and there's a fun story behind it.
Yeah.
And I feel like other people have similar pieces of advice that they hold on to.
Are you going to say the advice for us?
Oh, I'd love to. Assert dominance, impose your will.
Yep. I love it.
And there's a fun story behind that. It's just great.
Yep.
Your response.
Yep.
I would say...
Go ahead.
I'd give it an 8.
Okay. I think
with a little hesitation being, who it's with. And
yeah, I think this one to me is very situational, so I like it okay. I think this one's going to be prone to, with most people, kind of cliche answers.
Okay.
And I could be wrong, but I think most people, or a lot of people, won't really bring up jokes per se.
Well, mine's not a joke.
Well, I know yours isn't either. I was talking about what my answer would be, Yeah, I think I'm going to give this one a 4. So it's not like a terrible question, but I don't really love it because I just think my goal on first dates.
So we'll call it a 6.
One of my goals on first dates is to kind of delve through the crust that people develop as like kind of their face or their outside shell.
Mm-hmm. Well, without probably going too deep, right?
Just no, you don't. I'm saying, so you want to so part of that, it's not like just like drilling into them. It's part of it is making them feel comfortable. So they're going to lower those walls themselves. And then once they feel comfortable, you ask them about themselves and kind of bore a little bit into who they are.
Fair enough. What life events have shaped who you are today? It's your turn.
I think I kind of feel the same way about this one as the last one. I like I like the idea of the question, but I think in application I don't love it.
Mm-hmm.
Certain people are going to give you a great answer to this. They'll be like, well, when I was in like 7th grade or whatever, we had a car accident and it just was life-changing. And other people are going to be like, I don't know. Right? And it's just kind of an awkward time. So I think I'm going to give this one a 5.
Okay.
It's okay. It's not great. It's not bad. I think it's got an equal chance of being like a pretty enlightening conversation to being an awkward, kind of pointless conversation.
I do think it's a little... It's not cliche per se, but it is... I could see people asking a lot. And on your first date, I doubt someone's going to give you the...
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'd want them to tell me if I didn't know them a little bit first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, assuming... And you can give watered down answers of stuff that I would be okay with getting, but if somebody's like, well... And they go into this very deep, detailed thing, then I'm kind of like, I don't know about that one.
That's fair. So, sorry, what did you rate it?
A 5.
A 5? I'd probably say 5 too.
Yeah.
All right. What is the most nostalgic movie you could watch? Why?
You go ahead.
I think it's fun. I'd give it an 8 or a 9 because, again, it's just kind of a fun little connection. You can talk about movies that you watched growing up, like which ones you're like, wow. And it's not so deep as like, oh, because it's just nostalgic. Like, what do you remember watching with your siblings? You know.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I'm going to give it an 8. It's not like you're not going to get like the deepest answers out of here, but you're going to have decent answers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because most people are going to have a movie that has some nostalgia for them.
And it's got the why, so it's not just, oh, this is the movie.
Yep.
What is your favorite way to unwind after a long day? You go first.
I think I give this a 4. Once again, I like the concept. I like the information you're going for. But I think on a first date, you're not going to get any information from this. It's basically a filler question in my mind. Some people might answer it honestly, but I think most people are going to be like let's say, because it's just you're only going to get the sunshiny things. You're not going to get like, oh, I like to play video games, or oh, I like to watch movies, or that sort of stuff. And maybe movies aren't that bad. You might get that sometimes, and video games aren't that bad. You might get that sometimes. But what you're probably going to get is like, I love to spend time with family and friends, and that's probably going to be most of it. I think this, as a second option, you might get, I like to have alone time. Just relax.
Oh, see, I would initially give it a 7 because I think it's a pretty good question.
Uh-huh.
I like how it's a spin on. I think it's a spin on like what are your hobbies a little bit.
Uh-huh.
That's just it's not cliche. It's
a
little different, and it's still one. Because if someone asked me, before this little challenge, where I'm only drinking soda on the weekends, I'd probably say I'd crack a Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
Listen to a little country music or something.
What's the question again?
What is your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
Okay.
I think it just depends on how you consider it.
I actually like that a little bit more. I actually kind of initially understood it as basically what do you do when you get home from work or school?
Mm-hmm.
And that was my initial reading of it. If you're talking about like trying to relax or decompress, I like it a little bit more. I'll bump it up a point or two.
Okay. What would you say then?
I think I'll give it a 5.
Okay, and we'll meet in the middle, say 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fun.
Yeah. I don't mind that question when you conceptualize it that way.
Yeah. For you, I think it would be watching a show. You like an episode of a funny, lighthearted show. Maybe sitting on a couch with someone.
I would say probably watching a show with Maddie.
Right.
So even though I said this is a bit of a cliche answer,
moi?
Yeah, well, with you doing so. So actually, by myself, I don't really like watching shows that much, really at all.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm by myself, I don't really like.
There's a couple that you like, right?
There's a couple
enough to where you would.
There's a couple, but they're pretty few and far between. And usually, what happens is I start something when I'm in the mood to watch something, and then I never finish it because I'm not consistently enough in the mood if I'm by myself. That being said, watching things with Maddie. So I think mine, cliche though, even though I just said this was a cliche answer, would probably be spending time with people. Whether that be like playing pickleball, watching a show with Maddie, playing Mario Kart with Maddie, or something like that. Those are all things that are great for me to decompress.
Yeah, but I think you would nuance it like that.
Yeah.
So it would,
Yeah, so I give that credit then.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty good question.
Did you answer for you? We went into mine. What do you do, Williams?
I kind of talked about it a little. I said
did you?
Maybe crack a Dr. Pepper, listen to some country music.
Yeah.
That or just kind of sit and think, or...
Yeah. Sit in your thinking chair?
Sit in my thinking chair and think.
I respect that.
What's that reference?
I don't know. Sounds familiar, though.
Blue's Clues.
Blue's Clues. Oh, the thinking chair.
Blast from the past, yeah.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
Same. And by the way, Steve was the real guy. Steve, the OG, he was the best guy in Blue's Clues.
Oh, yeah, the new guy I've heard isn't as good.
Well, they had 2 guys since him.
Oh, really?
And I think the second one was supposed to be his brother or cousin, Jeff. And I don't know the relation of the newest one, the third one.
Interesting.
Unless that's changed recently and I just don't because I don't follow it on a consistent basis. I don't know.
Well, I watch every episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Then you tell me their names.
Blue.
Bucket, Pail.
Bucket,
I love how their names
Pail,
are just
Letter,
what they are. Yeah.
Mailbox. See?
Yeah.
I bet you feel silly.
Fair. Paprika. Mr. Salt, Mrs. Pepper.
Yep.
Classics.
So there, Weems. Get disproven.
Okay. What is your most used app on your phone?
Ooh.
Is it my go first or you go first?
You go first.
Okay. Probably Audible, just because I listen to a lot of books and things. That or Spotify, probably.
Yeah.
Because that's just something I have going in the background.
Yeah. So outside of those.
Outside of the...
Well, I just said... So the reason I asked is because I'm like outside of... Because mine is probably also Audible. But let's say like an app that you actively use.
Oh, that requires a little bit more of an active...
Yeah, it's something, yeah.
Maybe YouTube, watching a few videos.
I think mine's Facebook.
That might be it too.
Yeah.
I like to, once in a while, just kind of poke in and see what's going on.
Yeah. I initially like this question, but after thinking about it more, I think I don't. It's kind of in the middle, though.
I'm thinking similar, just because you may not get like an actual answer, but you might. It's kind of 50-50 that way.
Yeah.
For me, at least, because...
The reality is, if most people are being honest, it's either Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, or YouTube.
Yeah. And some people would admit that readily, too.
Yeah, some people
also
would.
Doesn't lend any nuance to...
Which is why I said that, is because even if people answered honestly, which I think you'd get about 80% honesty response, maybe even more, but... I mean, what did I learn? That they use the same apps that everybody else does? Like, they're all just different brands of the same thing.
That's true. If they said a dating app, you might go, whoa.
Yeah. So, I think I'm going to give that one a 4. Not because it's a terrible question, I just don't think it's a good question.
We'll call it a 4.5 then.
Yeah.
Between us. Okay. Do you prefer surprises or to know what is happening? I think it's your go.
Am I leading? Okay. I think on this one, I actually give it an 8. Because I think there are actually a surprising number of people who don't prefer surprises, and then vice versa. And so I think, well, maybe I'll give it a 7. Just because I think it's information and you're actually getting to know the person, but you're not going to get super far with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly binary.
Yeah.
You can't add a little nuance. What did you rate it?
7.
7. I would give it probably... I'd say maybe a 5, just because it's not giving you a lot to... It can be a fun one to break the ice a little bit, but...
Yeah.
We'll call it 6.
Yeah. How are we doing on questions? I feel like we're getting close.
Yeah, we are... I think we're about around 12, probably a little less.
Okay.
Is that okay?
I think it's fine. I'm just debating. How long do we want the episode today, Williams?
But
Viewers, how long do you want to listen?
If you didn't want to, you probably were already off.
Yeah, that's true. Babies.
I say we're close. I think a few of the next ones are going to be quite humorous.
All right, then let's run it.
What is the best compliment that you've ever received? We'll kind of go through these
The
names.
best compliment that you've ever received. I think I may have been asked this one once. I like this one for end date. Go ahead, though. Sorry, I didn't mean to take
first
this.
date?
This is your response.
I like it because it gives you a peek, and you can kind of see what other people who may know them better kind of see in them.
Yeah.
So I would say I'd give it an 8.
I think I'm going to give it an 8 too. It's in terms of depth and the concept, I like where it's going enough that on a third date, I would probably give this a 10. On a first date, I'm like, it's a good question. I think the information you're looking for is better sought on a third date or beyond.
Right, but I think you'll still get a
But
good
you'll
answer.
still get a good answer, and
a
it
real
gives you a
one.
good first start. So that's why I give it an 8. It's a good question. I just think I would probably tend to save it for later dates.
Mm-hmm. If you could go on a road trip anywhere, where would you go?
Okay, I'm going to say I actually don't like this question, but I think it's a good one for most people. For me, I don't really like to be asked where I travel because I'm not a super travel-y person. Like, I don't mind traveling, but it's not something I think about a lot. And I've been asked it a ton of times. So I kind of just give generic answers that are like 10 years old at this point. So I think I'm going to give it a 5, but that's definitely heavily involved with personal bias.
I would say 5 just because of the amount of cliche.
There's a lot of cliche in there.
That, and normally most of the girls I've gone on dates with have been just like, oh, I'd love to go someplace in Europe, which is just oh, like everyone else, you just want to travel the world.
Yeah, which is fun.
Yeah, it would completely
But
fine.
it's not
just,
super telling.
Yeah, it doesn't really give you anything to go on, and it ends pretty quickly. There's not a lot of explanation.
From my understanding, unless you have a previous relationship with this person, in the sense, like, if it's a friend from work, you can go for a longer first date.
Yeah.
Or if it's a friend from school and you know them well, you can go for a longer first date. Something like that. However, but if your first time really getting to know them, you got her number at the gym or the grocery store or wherever, you really should keep it about an hour, maybe an hour and a half at most. And so the time that you have there is semi-valuable.
Mm-hmm.
How well can your conversation flow, and you can get to know her enough to know that you're dedicated to a second date, and so that you can plan a second date that she'll enjoy.
Or maybe initiate like an interesting connection.
Exactly. So, like, these filler questions, I think, might be more valuable on later dates when you have more time. But on a first date, it should really be fairly concise, and you should have tons of things to talk about. It shouldn't really be many filler questions.
It's a lot more fun in the context of who they are.
Absolutely.
And what they like.
Absolutely.
All right. The next question. What does your lipstick taste like on your lips? This may be the best question so far. No,
10.
As long as you're asking it to a girl, because, if you're a girl asking a guy, they're not wearing lipstick.
If you're a girl asking a guy, then
I'd say it's 5 because
do you like the taste of
one way or
lipstick
another.
on your lips?
Do you like the taste? Does your lipstick taste good?
And then, on the condition on this one is after you kiss, you have to say, cherry flavor.
Want a taste?
Yeah,
Shrek the
want a
Third.
taste,
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking before you said that. So you'd say 10, I say 5. So we'll
7.5?
say 7.5.
You give it a 5? That's a low rating for that one.
I'm not a bold person like that.
I like how flirty it is. I'll be honest. So with Maddie, I flirted more than I did with any other girl. And it's because Maddie matched my energy, so she made me feel more comfortable, so we wound up flirting more.
Right.
So,
would you have gone this far, though?
Not on our first date.
Right.
I might have cracked a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I might have been like, I don't know, I'd be like, oh, that lipstick looks nice. I'll have to try it sometime, or something like that. But
I think it's a little much. I might even change my rating to lower. Because
that's more than I would do
me.
usually on a first date.
It's not me, and it's a little overextending. I'm going to say 2.
So when I say a 10, it's largely in jest. That's not anything I would ever say on a first date.
No,
Also,
fair enough. I mean, we said Are you Batman? Is 10.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, it's a huge difference in, like, saying this as a married man who doesn't have to worry about this. Like, I'm not going to actually have to ask any of these questions. So, yeah. Anyway, point is, I think that one's funny. I think it's clever. And
so between us, it's a 6.
So
because I'd say
it's
2.
a 6.
You say 10. All right. Who is your favorite superhero?
Europe.
I'm not because it's, again, another cliche.
Overplayed.
It's not a horrible question, but you're probably going to get Batman or Spider-Man.
Or Superman.
or Superman. Probably not outside of those. You might get a little bit more nuanced. It can let you know kind of, like some people are a little bit more nerdy and they really get into it, you know. That can be fun.
Yeah.
But
So if you suspect they're a nerd, it's a good question.
perhaps. I would give it just a 5. Because I don't hate it. It's not the worst question in the world. If you ran out of things, you might be able to...
I think I'm pretty with you, honestly. It's kind of... It's there. Once again, I consider the 5 questions generally to be filler questions. And I don't think that they're really ones that I would even
Neither
try
here
and
nor
ask.
there,
Yeah.
Fair enough.
They'd be better on a second and third date when you have so much time together. Talking about silly stuff in as much depth as you can is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite movie? My turn. Because I think it's just a less interesting presentation of like what movie was was nostalgic as a kid.
Yeah.
And again, cliche, but not so overplayed. Because I haven't gotten that a lot.
Yeah, I feel
Or
like
I
I've
haven't
got
said
this
it a
one a
lot
lot,
either.
actually.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's hard.
I'm gonna give it a 6.
Yeah. I'm going to give it, I think, a 5. Largely based on your point earlier where you said it's a less interesting adaptation of the earlier question.
Okay. I think that's fair. What's your middle name? This would be great if you're trying to get their information for their bank stuff.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
You might also ask what's your mother's maiden name. And I don't know. Fun fact, but not so fun that it... Not necessarily a first date thing.
I'm giving it a 2.
I'm probably right along with you.
I think it's kind of like middle names can be fun, but I think you're wasting a lot of opportunity here. So on a 4th, 5th date, I like to try and guess their middle name and try and have them guess mine.
That can be fun.
And that's kind of fun. So this kind of ruins that opportunity, and it's kind of pretty boring. What's your middle name? Scott.
Mm-hmm.
There's no...
And that is your middle name,
nowhere to
by
go
the
with.
way.
Yeah, that is my middle name. And yours is
So
James.
those trying to get his bank information.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my social security number is... Williams, you better not cut that part out.
It's integral to the show.
Yeah, I gave my social security number for a reason.
Whoever you are out there who needs it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm here for you. So, I can't remember my train of thought. I had something I was going to say more, but I don't remember.
Yeah, so it is what it is there. And mine is James.
Yeah.
I think we've answered that before.
We have.
How many siblings do you have? Is it your turn to go first?
It's your turn.
Okay. It's kind of 50-50, because some people, like, for you, I think it's a fairly interesting question to ask you.
Yeah.
Because you do have a larger family, and there's some fun story behind it, too.
I think I'm with you. I think I'm going to give it a 5.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's kind of hit or
But for
miss.
people who are really into their family and things, and who actually go a little farther in responding,
Yeah.
you'll learn a lot, and it'll be really intriguing.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but part of
I'm going
this...
to give it a 6.
Yeah. Okay, you're a 6. I'm sticking with 5 because I think it's mostly a potential question.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say that they say, "Oh, I'm number or we have 5," and you say, "Oh, which one are you?" Then they're like, "Oh, I'm number 3," and you're like, "Okay, how do you like being a middle child?" So where you go with this question is hugely important. If you're just like, "How many siblings do you have?" and they're like, "Oh, 4," and you're like, "Cool, I have 6." So, how about the weather? Then it's not good. But if you're delving into it and you kind of like ask them about what it's like to have older siblings or younger siblings and kind of delve a little bit into their family life, but not super duper deep, I think that's a good thing. So I'm giving it a 5 because it's a potential question in my mind.
Right, and it might change a little bit too if they just give a stale answer, but you like go into yours, they might kind of go back into theirs.
Yeah,
But
that's true. That's true.
For someone who's passionate about their family, this isn't a great question. But
Yeah.
maybe in general,
Yeah.
we round it to about 5.5.
Yeah.
How many people are in your family? Your turn.
Wait, isn't that the same one?
No. We asked how many siblings do you have? How many people do you have in your family?
Same thing. 5.
Yeah,
Same answer,
yeah.
same number, same everything.
Okay. What do you want to do for a career?
Okay, so this is a good question. It's generic, but it's generic by necessity. It's cliche by necessity. For most people, like, talking about your career is one of the, like, good things, especially if you delve into the why.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Maddie and I, on our first date, went fairly in depth because I was like, what do you want to be? And she said, oh, like, I'm going to school to be a teacher right now. And I said, well, why do you want to be a teacher? She's like, oh, I just like teaching kids. And I said, well, when did you learn that? And she said, oh, well, I taught this class when I was a teenager for church and all this stuff. And I said, oh, that's so cool. And you liked being around the kids and doing all that stuff? And she's like, yeah, I loved it. I loved, like, being a part of that and all this different stuff. And so I think if you go the right way with it, it has a lot of potential. I think even still you might get, even, like, they're going to get more voluntary on information. So I'm going to give this one a 7. I think it has potential to be a 10 question, but it depends on how you follow it up.
Okay. I say 6, so we'll run to 6.5. You're right. And I think it is important, an important question to ask. But because it is foundational, establishes interests and things of that nature. But it's still over-asked, and I think it's one of those things like we were talking about earlier. Sometimes they just develop a superficial answer.
Which is true.
They just hand people.
Which is very true, which is why I think you need to delve into it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. To actually get the...
To get to the meat of it. Absolutely.
Okay, and then the final question. Do you listen to Dogs and Gooses, and if so, what's your favorite episode?
20. 20 out of 10.
Yeah, that is probably the most important question you could ever ask. I mean, 100
honestly,
out of 10.
You need to lead with this question, and you need to close with this question on your date.
Because it says so much.
Sit down at your table and go, do you listen to Dogs and Gooses, and what's your favorite episode? And then talk about that for the entire date. Heck, turn it on. Listen to the episode together. And then as soon as it's done, just look at them and say, do you listen to Dogs and Gooses, and what's your favorite episode? And then give them a kiss on the mouth, walk out to your car, go home.
Mm-hmm. They might try and follow you, but say no.
Yeah. So if you
adds mystery.
If you want to get married, ask this question. Mm-hmm. All right? Like, that's just rule number 1.
100%. What's your favorite episode that we've done?
Somebody asked me yesterday what episodes we've done, and I was trying to remember what my favorite was.
It's hard for me.
Well, we've done so many episodes that I honestly, like, kind of forget about them until I scroll through.
Mm-hmm.
And when I scroll through, that's when I go, oh, I really enjoyed that episode. Honestly, this one's been fun.
I feel like the first one's a classic, but that one was kind of like this one in a way, but this was more about rating first date questions.
I actually, I think one of my favorites is actually Working Hard or Hardly Working, although the audio on that one is atrocious.
You're still in the process of fixing that, aren't you?
I'm 80% of the way through, but it's so annoying and tedious to do that I'm kind of like, ugh.
It'll probably never see the light of day.
I mean, there's a good chance that one of these days I'll do it, but it's eventually. We need to have another exercise episode. I really like exercise. I really enjoyed that one, but I think there's so many aspects to it.
I think you're right. Oh. For me, it's so hard because I think a real fun one was New Year, New Shay.
That was really fun. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I like that aspect of like, oh, what did we do the past year?
Yeah.
What are we gonna do going forward? It was just
a good time.
I think we got some like quiet, like hidden gems.
Yeah,
Trevor's Pontoon, for example.
Trevor's Pontoon is definitely
great episode.
a hidden gem. I love that one. We have some. I remember a lot of these episodes actually being really well liked. Our first episode was a banger. Like, that one was actually really good.
Yeah. I think that one has our most views.
It probably does. It's really good. I really like that. And honestly, this one has a kind of a similar-ish format.
Yeah.
Today, like, we don't necessarily ask these questions. I like the added rating of them and the discussion of how effective they are on a first date.
Mm-hmm.
So we could call this one the first date.
We kind of meeting in for the first time, Starks. I like it.
Well, maybe we'll do a third one after this.
What are the odds? Yeah. What are the chances?
Oh, I'd say they're pretty high.
I think I've figured out the name that I want for this bear.
Oh, what is it?
I think we'll call him Bernie the Burning Heart Bear. And what happens is he sets the fires that Smokey puts out.
Oh!
But they're fires of passion.
He'll be one of our mascots. By the way, we have a lot of souvenirs from the show currently. We have we have rubber ducks and now Bernie the Bear and some posters type things and just a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. I might put Bernie up in my office.
Do it.
Yeah, give him a Valentine's Day feel. And then after that, I don't know what I'm going to do. We could just bring him back, I guess.
That's whatever you want to do. Leave him up there, take him down, whatever.
Yeah.
Put a camera in him to keep him from taking Bry's food.
Oh, yeah. Wild stuff.
Wild stuff.
But you have any final thoughts before we close?
I think, thank you guys for joining us. I hope you guys have a good Valentine's Day, and hopefully you either have someone special or you will next year.
Exactly. And if you're like me, we're just praying it's next year. But thanks so much for joining in, and remember, listen if you want or not, we don't care.